It's the Anime Movie Podcast with your hosts, Kat and Joe. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Anime Movie Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Joe Welke.
I'm Kat Hamilton.
And today we're talking about a Netflix original film, and it is titled Blame.
Much anticipated film. Joe's
Yes.
wanted to watch this for a while.
Yes. I've wanted to watch this for a while because if you don't really know anything about how we do things here at the Anime Movie Podcast, the way that we select our movies, if we're not doing like a themed month or something, is I'll pick two movies and Kat will pick two movies, and then we have a tournament where we flip coins and, you know, one of mine advances and then one of Kat's advances, and then it's a head-to-head coin flip. A little while ago.
This is so many months ago.
Yeah, actually a very long time ago. Blame was the champion, and it was one of the ones that I picked. And we had just gone on a string of like cyborg and sci-fi type movies. And Kat was like, I'm fucking burnt out on sci-fi cyborg movies. Can we please do something else? And so we did. I forget which one we watched instead.
Yeah, I can't remember, but you were very kind.
Yeah, I did relinquish the championship belt, but
He's also never let it go.
I have not. It is the undefeated champion until now. And I've re-entered Blame into the pool several times and it didn't win. And Kat was like, oh, I'm so glad that Blame didn't win. I'm like, well, it did win. Several months ago, we just still haven't watched it. But today, of all days, Kat's having a rough day. She recently got sunburnt from basically head to toe.
Well, actually, between my knees and my belly button, I'm fine.
But she's lobstery right now.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that in this day of misery, Blame has won. The movie Kat has been looking forward to the least of watching.
And dear listeners, I can't tell you how excited Joe was.
I was very excited because what I've heard about this movie before we watched it is that it's not a very good movie. And I was just excited to watch it. And if it's so bad, you know, shit on it. I love shitting on bad movies and, you know, making it entertaining. But then I also was kind of like, could it be good? Maybe everything that we saw was wrong because it doesn't have very high scores on like, it's got a 57% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. There aren't even enough critics that watched it to get a critic rating. It has a 7.1 on my anime list and a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
6.7 out of 10 is pretty high on IMDb.
Yeah. I just feel like a lot of people felt that this movie was mediocre.
It is.
And I tend to agree.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that it's a Netflix original anime movie.
Mm-hmm.
Have we had any others? Because I don't think we have.
Netflix originals? No, I don't think so. I think this might be the first.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix originally, their first sort of time that they were a role as a network was for House of Cards.
Mm-hmm.
And originally it was pitched to HBO. And HBO said, we like it, we'll do it, but we'll only give you this number of episodes. I think it was like 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then Netflix was like, hey, how many episodes you want? We'll give you all of them and we'll pay for it. And so the bid went to Netflix instead of HBO. And that sort of kicked off Netflix acting like a network.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting now to see foreign made films that are, you know, supported by network. And I don't really know how that works because I wonder, I mean, they must have to screen cuts of things here before, you know, it ends up being finalized, just like you would do with a TV network. But I don't know if there must be sort of a Japanese Netflix network that they would report to, or maybe it would come to the US. I'm not quite sure. But it's an interesting mix of cultures, because if you have an American company giving notes on something, then it's going to have these American influences, but of course it's being made by a Japanese team. And I find that very interesting as far as anime goes, because that's pretty unusual.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix now has a lot of original anime series, but I don't know if it's like those series were going to get made anyway, and then Netflix just bought the rights or something, or if Netflix is just licensing some of the stuff, or if it's like, no, Netflix is like, no, we're going to make our own anime type stuff and hire. I think that there are a couple that are like that, though.
I assume it acts like a network, and that they are just funding the production company to make it, and they're also having input as executive producers, watching the content and giving feedback.
Well, I think that this was probably one of the earlier Netflix anime things, because I mean, it came out in 2017.
Well, what year did House of Cards come out? Because that would have been the first time that anything was financed by Netflix as an original.
I feel like House of Cards maybe like
A while ago.
2014. Let me see. 2013.
Okay.
So
yeah, so they've been in the game for like 8 years, but since then there's been so much Netflix original content.
I mean, they're like doing Oscar bait shit.
Yeah.
I feel like they won an Oscar yet? I mean, they definitely have won an Oscar for something, maybe like sound design, but not like Best Picture, right?
I don't know. I don't know anything about whether or not they've won an Oscar.
I also feel like the Oscars are meaningless.
Emmys,
at this
I'm
point.
sure.
Oh yeah,
Oscars, I'm not sure.
Emmys for sure. But also Oscars are meaningless at this point. The Oscars are so out of touch with everything. It's so terrible. Nobody ever watches fucking Oscar-winning movies anymore. Anyway, that's a rant for another time. We're talking about Blame. The Hiroyuki Sashita film from 2017, and it is about a post-apocalyptic future where there's only a few hundred, not even a few hundred. I think it's like humans are on the brink of extinction, and there's this village of people that are trying to survive in this super computery world where people built up a city that relied so heavily on computers and automated robots and shit that one day a virus came, and the virus changed the programming of the robots to like kill humans.
They call it a contagion.
Yeah. I don't know why. It's a robot thing, you know? Like if you had a virus on your computer, we're like, no, contagion. It's a virus. But I guess they're just trying to make it sound more cool or whatever, because contagion does sound cooler than a computer virus.
It does sound cooler. Yeah. This is kind of like 2 steps or 3 steps ahead as far as future worlds go. It's kind of like the age that they talk about that was so far in the past, barely anyone can remember it, which is this time when humans ran these cities, and they had control over robots and everything else that was going on. You could have made a film about that, and that still would have been sort of a distant future film. And this is post that.
Yeah.
It almost feels like post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, this is like Planet of the Apes, and what you're talking about is Rise or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Sure. It does kind of feel like there should have been a movie before this.
Oh, so you want to see a sequel to Blame?
Well, I'd say
where
prequel. It's
called Accusation! Exclamation point.
It's just called Suspicion.
Yeah.
That's the prequel to Blame. This reminded me of a book series called Silo, which I've only read the first book of. And the first book is called Wool, and the series is by Hugh Howey. It's a silly name.
It is, but it's fun to say.
Yeah.
Hugh Howey.
Yeah. And essentially, the people live in these underground silos that are hundreds and hundreds of layers. Except in that, there were more people involved. So the different layers had different sort of caste systems, and there
Mm-hmm.
was more of a government structure in that, and it was still pretty dystopian. But similarly to this, there are many levels, and you do not see any plants. Not nary a plant in sight.
Yeah. Well,
Um, I don't know how they get air.
yeah.
There's no plants.
Yeah. I don't know. There's solar flares all over the place, but like, I feel like there's several levels down below what originally was like I guess, where people used to live. So
See, do you
how,
think this is underground or do you think this is built up overground? Because I wondered if these were cities that were built up with like skyscrapers
yeah.
and they don't ever leave and go outside of it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that the virus did is all of the they're called builder robots. It put them into a frenzy where they just infinitely are building the cities indefinitely. Like they just
They're not
continue
doing
building
it
them.
well, though.
Yeah, and I don't know the structure. Like it seems like the villagers are having a hard time getting around.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big sort of cyber urban decay feel to every environment.
Yeah,
Nothing looks like it's running particularly well. There's a lot of sort of wires sticking out of places and a lot of warehouses with many levels.
yeah,
Um, but, just constant high res desktop backgrounds
yeah,
of these sort of post apocalyptic dystopian worldscapes. Um, to be honest, when we first started watching it, I was like, wait, is this a trailer for something else? Because I didn't think it looked like animation to begin with, because you open on something where there's no characters yet
mm-hmm.
and it's just the background. And it was so detailed. I was like, wait, what is this?
Yeah,
Um, but then you get these CGI characters coming into it, and God, they are CGI, aren't they?
yeah, yeah. You know what's crazy is so. I think if anyone's ever listened to this podcast, they know that me and Kat are not the biggest fans of CGI. Um, this whole movie is CGI, and the characters are CGI, and they move so jankily.
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of very cinematic camera angles and camera movements.
Mm-hmm.
And then occasionally there'll be a shot where I'm like, oh, that movement was kind of nice,
Yeah.
but it was kind of rare.
It seemed to me that when they were moving fast, it was a lot smoother than when they were moving slow. Like when they were moving
Yeah.
slower, it looked like a video game that was lagging.
Yes, I got huge video game vibes from this.
Yeah.
Everything about this felt video gamey, and yeah, the way their hair moved, for example, immediately took me into like, oh, I'm watching a cutscene,
Mm-hmm.
in a video game. Yeah, and I think it's partly because they were trying to kind of stay true to the anime style, which, when you see anime hair, often it's in sort of spikes or kind of bits that stay together.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see individual strands of hair normally.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of keeping these spiky hair bits together, and they'd move together, and it just didn't fit for me against these really high res detailed backgrounds.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are also moments that I noticed like in the end of the movie that the animation was just very poor. Like things were moving and it just didn't, they weren't moving how they would move in the physical world.
Yeah, and background characters, they made some attempt, but
Yeah.
it was clear they were like, "Do you think the intern can do the background characters?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure. He's seen Mies from
Yeah.
We, and
Yeah. I
he'll
don't,
make it work."
I don't know. Which do you prefer? Like, I've specifically avoided watching some series that are animated like this just because I think that this animation is trash.
Yeah.
This animation style is trash. But, like, reading the reviews of this, a lot of people are like, yeah, there's not a lot of plot, but stay around for the animation. I'm like, who's staying for the animation?
I think they're talking about some of those visuals. I mean, sometimes it gets really try hard where it feels like every single shot is meant to look really, really cool and look like it could
Epic.
be the desktop of your
Yeah.
very large monitor.
Yeah, your Alienware PC that you built yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a gun in this that every time it goes off, it creates beautiful embers around everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And so they take a moment to just let somebody stand there and be surrounded by these glowing embers. And Joe mentioned solar flares earlier, and we don't mean like actual flares in the sun that would be exploding somewhere in this hellscape. It's more like lens flares
Yeah,
that you
lens
get.
flares. Yeah.
And it's like any light source above a certain level of light was going to have a very intense lens flare,
Yeah.
like one that went across the whole screen in two directions.
Yeah.
And I tried to start counting them in the beginning, like the first scene, and I just stopped. I got bored. I was like, I can't count all of these.
Yeah, there's one particularly towards the end where it took up like I'd say 20% of the screen. It was just blue lens flare.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is excessive. Like, I mean, I think it's a, people like that look,
Yeah.
but it got excessive. It definitely got excessive.
Yeah, for sure. Early on. But then they kind of had a break and they're like, we don't have to show you any of these for a little while.
Yeah.
And then it comes back. I think this would have been a pretty fun video game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that there was some kind of controversy where there was a video game released the same year that is pretty much the same premise as this. I forget what it was called, but I read about it.
I mean, it's not a huge reach, though.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like the most original plot, I would say. Wouldn't you agree? Like, it's,
Yeah.
AI is run amok, The video game is called Zero Horizon Dawn. And according to IMDb, shares many visual and thematic elements with Blame, including malicious artificial intelligence, a setting several thousand years after an automated contagion, and humanity reverting to tribalism after the collapse of society. I mean, that could be said about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the most original plot. It's not the most, I don't know. It wasn't so bad. Like, it's in that weird middle ground where it's like, it's not good, but it's not bad enough to shit on necessarily in a fun way. It's just like right square in the middle of like, this isn't anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key word or key phrase in there was in a fun way, because you can shit on this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna.
And the thing is that I think that some people might really like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some positive reviews on things. I mean, obviously people liked it. I just don't know who likes this animation style. I think it looks so bad and stupid.
I don't know who likes watching movies when you don't have any characterization. Don't really care about anyone in it.
Yeah.
Because I felt like the people you got to know the best are really not empathetic characters or relatable. And the relatable ones don't really ever have a personality.
Well, I thought that the main character was going to be somebody else at the beginning of the movie, and then it felt like it shifted all around to like, who's the main character? Whose story is this?
Yeah, and if this was more of an ensemble piece where you did have more characters, then you might kind of have your empathy split between a few different people. I think this would have benefited from some humor.
Yeah, there's none of that.
Yeah, and there's a moment or two that I think are maybe supposed to be funny, but I don't know. I think it could have also benefited from, a little bit more foreshadowing, and just to kind of build something up so you could start being like, oh, I think this might have happened, and then you kind of watch that unfold.
Yeah.
You kind of get, God, what do they call it in like playing D&D and stuff? There's a word where in some gameplay in some role-playing games, you can sort of be like, okay, I'm going to make up something that happened in the past to try and make something work right now. And that's kind of what they did in storytelling here. They kind of like flash back to something and they like show how this happened rather than kind of like hinting it at the time. Anyway, so I think there was some storytelling that could have been done better and some writing that could have been better. But it was so close to being better than okay.
Yeah, I mean, the most that I can say about this is that it's really like nothing. It's a nothing movie. Like, like it's not gonna stick with me, but I'm not like that was the worst. I don't know. You know how they say it's like the enemy of love isn't hate, it's indifference. I feel immense amount of indifference about this. Like I don't hate it. I didn't love it. It's not fun. Like
but you don't resent it?
No, I mean, I don't know, man. You can tell in the tone. Like sometimes if I really like a movie or if I really hate a movie, like I'm a lot more animated in my tone of voice and everything. I feel like I'm very like.
This could be such a low energy pod.
It's very low energy right now, like because this didn't energize me in any way. I'm very indifferent. I have no. Yeah. I mean, the soundtrack I thought was pretty cool. There were some moments in the soundtrack that were good.
Yeah, I thought some of it was a little bit overdone. The music got a little hot sometimes, and it was very orchestral. There were a couple moments where I was like, I don't think this music is good for this.
There was a couple moments where, so there's this we didn't explain this in the synopsis thing, but there's like a mystery badass guy named Kitty who shows up, and he's just some mystery badass. But every time he showed up on screen for the first, I would say half of the movie, he has this like guitar riff that plays anytime you like it gets a close up on his eyes. It's like, and it's kind of like westerny. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then they just kept doing it. And I was like, all right, this is getting kind of overkilly.
Yeah, I started laughing every time it went to his face, and I wasn't picking up on his theme, his kind of sting that he gets. I just kept laughing because this guy doesn't talk a lot.
He has 47 words in this whole film.
Wow. Were you counting? I'm guessing it was a trivia. Yeah. And so just cut to him, and he would just be looking blank.
Yeah.
Just looking blankly and scowling slightly.
And
it got increasingly funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, it also, like, when he would say words, it would be like a 7-second shot of his dead face, and then he'd just say one word.
Or 3 words, and there'd be a pause in the middle. And it was kind of like zombie speak.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't really full sentences. Like, he wasn't quite all there.
Yeah. Should we get into spoilers, I guess?
Oh, I suppose.
They wouldn't spoil this, right?
Oh, God,
they can't spoil this, right?
Don't spoiler talk, anime movie podcast, spoiler talk.
All right, we're in spoilers. The most boring intro to the spoilers ever.
Okay. I've got a thing.
I've got a thing too. I've got multiple things. What's your thing?
My thing is, so Kitty comes back to this village with these children wearing these mecha uniforms.
Yeah.
And he's looking for what he says is the net terminal gene, which I have a few questions about. But it seems to be something that you can inherently have, which allows you to control the robots again and be able to like get control of the city and connect to the sort of like big net. And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about, but we'll like try to help you, man. And they bring him back to the village, and he gives them a massive Lego, which they pour water on, and it becomes the biggest mound of cornbread you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
It's about 6 square feet of cornbread. And they're like, yay, we can eat. We're not starving anymore. And then for some reason, the rotting shrine comes up, and people are like, "Don't go there. It's scary. It's just under here." And he was like, "Under here." And he goes and finds it.
Yeah.
And he picks up a massive block, maybe like a big cement wall piece. And underneath it is a really alarming looking AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like the synthetic skin and stuff that used to be there that would make her look human isn't there anymore. So she looks like a robot skeleton. Like, the teeth and metal gums are exposed.
Yeah, she looks like a Terminator, basically.
And she's missing blocks of hair.
Yeah.
In chunks. And in order to wake her up, he like pulls her out by her hair. It's very rough. You can't imagine this man being gentle. And just pulls her out, and he just like half of her chest and her spine goes with it. And then he just smashes her head a bunch of times into a nearby wall, and she's like, "Oh, I'm awake now."
Yeah, right.
And then she's like, I've been waiting so long. Over 70 million hours.
Yeah.
Now, I got a calculator out.
Mm-hmm.
And, she gave an exact number. But I was like, how many days is 70 million hours?
I thought she said 17 million.
I was pretty sure she said 70 million.
Okay.
But 17 might make a lot more sense. Because after I found out how many days it was, I was like, how many years is that? And it was like 8,000 years. And I was like, she's been waiting a real long time.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she said 17 million, if that's the case.
I was like, why did she go with hours for that unit of measurement? She could have gone with millennia.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that'd be a really long time. I mean, 17 million hours is still a long time, but...
All right, let me do the math really quickly and find out what 17 million hours would be.
But yeah, when he rips her out and starts bashing her head into a rock, I was like, I don't think this is the way to make this happen. Like, first of all, you rip this robot thing in half. Like, the circuits are all, like, hanging out. And then just bashing it. He's, like, hitting it against the wall. Like, remember, like, old TV sets that had static? You had to, like, slap the side in order to make it work or whatever. That's what he was doing with, like, a robot brain.
But he was smashing it.
Yeah.
I thought he found it was like, oh my God, we need to destroy this immediately.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of level of violence he took to this spine. And
Yeah, I mean, the Robo Lady looks haunting.
she does look very haunting.
Very scary looking, but turns out she's like the hero of the movie.
Yeah, she kind of is.
Yeah. Did you do that math?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's it's a little under 2,000 years.
That's still ridiculous as fuck.
And that's what I mean about, like, this is post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
This isn't quite as far ahead as, what was it, 12,000 whatever AD
in Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
But, like, what would you guess the year for this is?
12,000 AD. They're in the same universe as
They
Vampire
might
Hunter.
be in this. Yeah, that's what would happen if they actually got all the way to the lens flare.
Yeah.
And were able to get to the outside world. It's just Vampire Hunter D out there.
All kinds of crazy creatures and shit going on out there.
I thought for a moment that she was going to kind of continue this entire time just being the head and chest and spine.
Yeah, me
because she's kind of like, oh, nobody exists with that net terminal gene, but I can get you a synthetic terminal.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking to myself, when is a terminal not synthetic?
Mm.
Are there any
natural terminals?
Natural terminals?
Dude, they were saying a bunch of mumbo jumbo in this fucking movie. And they said the word humans like 800,000 times.
It started to sound really weird when I said it, human.
Yeah. And also, like, the Robo Lady, Shibo, she considers herself a human, but she's very obviously not a human.
She's very not a human.
And I think the kitty also considers himself a human, but he's definitely not a human either. Which made me question, like, are humans just that in this future? Like, is everybody like
Or is it just that they have to be human identifying?
I don't know. Were the villagers humans?
Well, and when he got back to the village, they're like, we haven't seen other humans, and
Yeah,
so
that's
long.
why I was like, this guy's not a human. He's got a fucking.
And we didn't meet a lot of other types of creatures to kind of validate saying it that many times. You know, if there were other, down the street, there's googly gags, but we're the humans. But there was no comparison like that. There was just like, you don't meet any robots, I guess. I mean, Shibo to me was a robot. Nobody ever says she's human, do they?
I think that she said that she's a human.
Or that she was a human?
Yeah.
I kind of wondered if people at some point started sort of gaining cyborg parts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. I thought it is what happens later on when Shibo like gets to the automated factory or whatever.
Oh, before we get there was a point I wanted to finish
Okay,
earlier.
yeah, go for it.
Which was, I thought she was going to stay as like the spine and half chest and head. And, she gets strapped to Kitty's back before they go out. And she's kind of like, this way, now this way.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this that video game character that comes in and is in like, this is Navi from Ocarina of Time, who's just going, hey, listen. And then like telling them to go this way or telling them what the new fetch quest item will be.
Yeah.
But then she kind of shifts, so she doesn't have to be carried around and put places anymore.
Yeah. I mean, she shifts because they get to the automated factory that she's like, if we get to the automated factory, I can make anything. I can make a synthetic terminal. I can even make food. I can do whatever. So I was
Food
like,
Legos.
yeah. And then as they get there, I was like, why doesn't she make herself a new body if she can just make anything? And she does, which I was very happy about because that carrying around that skeleton was so creepy, dude. It was so creepy.
It was like cyborg Pirates of the Caribbean. Some of those like skeletons. I also want to quickly sidebar backtrack to these villagers talk about how they have to go hunting and their hunting ground is drying up. But the one thing they seem to say they are hunting is sludge, which they seem to pull out of pipes, which makes me think that you're not hunting.
Yeah.
Like that's a gatherer.
Well, they're also
You're
called
sludge gathering.
electro-fishers. I was like, this fishing for what are you like? The verbiage in this movie is so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of this film was really irritating because these kids running around in the like quote unquote hunting ground are all wearing, sort of these mecha suits. And they're kind of somewhere between like feudal serfs and stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And you can't tell who's who. And you start out with this number and the numbers dwindle in the beginning because you end up getting the safeguard showing up, which are the spidery kind of blank, creepy mask.
Yeah. Jabberwocky masks.
Yeah, creatures. And so they get kind of picked off. But you're like, I don't even know who I'm rooting for yet. I don't know anyone's faces. You've said names a few times, but I'm not picking up who's who at all. And I think that opening scene was not meant to characterize in any way. It was meant to world build.
Yes.
And I think they could have done more with that and less with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was very confused because everyone's like saying names at each other and they're all wearing uniform, basically helmets and stuff. So it's like, yeah, these names mean nothing to me. You see the inside, but they all look the same because you're only seeing like the eyes and the eyebrows and a little bit of hair. So it's like, I can't tell who's who. People are dying. Somebody's like, oh, Ty, how are you going to get back? It's like, I don't know who the fuck Ty is. I don't know what his or her role is in this group. Why Ty is so important.
Yeah. And, they almost could have like cut back and forth between the village and the kids running around. So you start to kind of world build on two levels, but then also start to see some faces.
Yeah.
It was just an odd way to try and set things up. And I guess they were trying to like do an action scene first to like grip you and pull you through it. And I just don't think that's a good way to story structure.
I mean, it could be a good way if you could tell who's who and what's going on.
I could see that there was like minor differentiations, but the way the camera is just like moving all over the place to be like, I'm an action movie, then, you know, you don't get any of those little details to be able to tell like, oh, Ty's skirt thing is shorter, you know?
Yeah, the only differences I noticed was that the women had skirts and the men had like samurai pant shield things. I don't know.
Pant shield.
I don't know what to call them. They were like chaps or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
One problem that I had with it was, so every like half hour there's a big action scene and like people are getting slaughtered all over the place.
That's a lot of death.
And mainly the villagers getting slaughtered. But one of the big problems that they have in this movie is they're like, oh, we don't have enough gear. We lost all this gear. And it's like, no, what gear did you lose? Because the people that returned didn't lose any of their gear. It's just the people that died. So you didn't lose any gear. You lost people and gear, I guess. But like, you still have the same amount of gear for the people that are here that need it.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of trying to make the stakes seem higher or worse. Or
I didn't buy it.
Yeah, I could tell. There were a lot of things that happened where I was just like, why?
Yeah. I mean, by the end of the movie, there's only like 15 of them left, it seems like.
Right? Yeah, I do think the idea of these builder robots that are giant and, you know, are city builders, that they've just keep building.
Yeah.
I think that's quite cool. You know, like I kind of love when you go into nature in some way, or, you know, just you sort of see urban nature, and it's like the tree roots have started to come through the sidewalk and like wrap around a fence, or it's like pulled a bicycle into it. And it's just like, you think, oh yeah, if we weren't around for a while, like this stuff would take this back. This would all become really overgrown, and everything that we do is about keeping that back, keeping things in the right place. And then I thought, oh, it's interesting when you think about that from a digital perspective, that if you had created something that had an automatic function, like, and then you stopped controlling it, it might just keep doing the thing.
Yeah.
You know? And I like the idea that they don't really care about people. They're not like the Safeguard, who have started to believe that because of the contagion, that humans are the humans. You can't say humans like a lot of times before you have to start saying it slightly weird.
Yeah.
But the Safeguard believe that humans are illegal aliens.
Yeah. They're illegal residents and they need to be exterminated. It's like, why?
Yeah.
What made them, like, why did they get all fucking landlordy and they're like, you're a bunch of squatters on my like,
why are they so xenophobic?
like, I don't get it, because I usually understand when AI runs amok in movies. It's like, we're going to create a perfect world free of crime, and then the next logical leap is like, well, humans are the criminals, so if there are no humans, then there won't be any crime. Like, I understand that leap.
Yeah.
But to be like, you guys shouldn't be living here, so you have to die. It's like, why shouldn't they live there? They're like, I don't know. The contagion told me so.
Imagine if instead of like being creepy and killing it's just like slaughtering the humans, what if the Safeguard just came over, picked them up, and then just took them outside one by one?
Yeah.
To be like, you're not allowed to live here.
Yeah. Just like knocking on their door. Where's the rent? It's like, I fucking paid it yesterday, you fucking stupid robots. Just a bunch of evicted humans. That would be a so much funnier movie.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's something kind of interesting about taking it this many steps further into the future, because of how many films focus on that what leads up to the potential of AI taking over or escaping, getting out into the world, and you have those final moments where you watch the AI walk out into the world, and it's like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
And this is like, cool. So that happened, and then let's talk about 2,000 years from then, which is wild. So we talked about getting it to the automation factory, which is basically like
where they can make anything.
It's like Amazon.com, but a factory.
It's like a 3D printer factory.
Yeah, a 3D printer, Amazon.com of the future, where you can just make whatever. And then we have the cool moment when Shibo, the scientist that was found as a partial skeleton cyborg, makes herself a new skin, gets herself some. Actually, her whole outfit's pretty Lady Gaga, because she's got the sort of like classic Lady Gaga platinum blonde hair with the long straight bangs, and then she's got impossible shoes.
Yeah.
She basically walks on her toes like a ballerina.
Yeah. She's like 9 feet tall as well, because she goes back to the village and she's walking amongst the villagers and they're all like, whoa, that's a big lady. And then she picks up some giant suitcase with the synthetic terminal and they're like, whoa, that's a strong lady.
So they end up triggering something accidentally in that automation factory.
Yeah. While Shibo is creating the synthetic terminal, the automation factory recognizes her, and then they realize that it's her, and they terminate her login, and then they just start automatically creating a bunch of extermination safeguard droids.
And there is where Ty, who's kind of, the only other girl who ended up surviving that initial group of children who were looking for the sludge and not finding it in the beginning, who has like a sick sister.
Yeah.
Who do we ever see?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's
not that
weird.
I remember.
So that's her characterization, just that she cares about her sick sister that we never see for some reason, but gets talked about a lot for somebody you never see.
She cares about her sister, and literally everyone is concerned about Ty.
Everyone's concerned about her.
Ty, what are you doing? No, we got to protect Ty. I'm worried about Ty.
And see, I thought that, they said that she got crushed by an exterminator. And then you and I were like, what's the difference between an exterminator and a safeguard? And you were saying maybe they're interchangeable, but I think the exterminators are the humanoid ones, like what we see towards the end.
With the Jabberwocky masks?
No, not the spidery ones.
Because they refer to the spider ones as exterminators. I
kept hearing them say safeguards, and I thought the exterminators are like the exterminator is the one that attacked Ty. That's different. That has the black eyeliner and looks like a lady. Looks like a Alita Battle Angel.
Oh,
a bit.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I think that safeguard is the name for that's what they call, we'll go back to Star Wars. Like that's the Empire.
I thought that was the Authority.
That's what they call it?
I thought that was what the Authority was, is the sort of the Empire.
I never heard of. Did they say the Authority in this movie?
Oh yeah, like 3 or 4 times.
I missed that. I thought that Safeguard was like Skynet or something, and then there's the TI-80 whatever were like what the extermination droids were in this, and there's different levels of them. So I thought that's what it was.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if the Authority had control over the Safeguard, and that is their kind of security patrol. Like, is the Watchtower part of the Safeguard as well?
Yeah, the Watchtower shoots out the droids, the spider droids.
Oh, I thought that it was just an alert system to let the droids know that they need to crawl out from wherever.
This is the problem with the movie.
Yeah. The Watchtowers reminded me of the Ohm from Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind.
Mm.
Just because they were, these sort of light bluish gray metal with a bunch of sort of half orbs that lit up, and they would be blue when they were happy and they'd go red when they were mad.
Yeah.
And it was just like the Ohm.
So from what I understood is that the watchtower existed to watch and look for humans.
Yeah.
And then if it caught any of them, it would alert and then shoot out the spider extermination droids.
Okay. I thought they would just kind of crawl out of wherever.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I don't know where these like super mega droids come from, like what we find out like Kitty's body is, and the person that overtook Ty's body, which we didn't know that was something that they could do.
No, and and that's what I thought the exterminators were these kind of like half human, half robot things that are part of the safeguard. But yeah, again, this is part of the problem with the movie.
Yeah. The shit's not clearly defined. Like, we don't know what they're capable of, and then they're just like, yeah, I can do that. I can shapeshift.
I guess I thought because the automation factory made those safeguard droids in large numbers that's how they got made, and that they were stored somewhere and then came out from.
No, but I'm saying, where did the one that Ty, the shapeshifting one, where did that one come from?
Yeah, I blatantly ignored that and went back to an earlier point that we've kind of closed out. But yeah, I mean, again, I thought that was called an exterminator, and she came in and kind of zombie infected Ty by looking her in the eyes and giving her eyes robot powers. Because they use this thing a lot for this, like you might see in any kind of mecha where you get sort of a display in front of the eyes. And
yeah.
So they did this a lot.
That's so fucking much, and it meant absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And it seemed like the people who were like the villagers, they only had it when they had their helmets on. But then somebody like Kitty just had it inbuilt in his eyes.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like the woman who attacked Ty gave it to her, made her eyes robot-y too. I don't understand.
I think she looked into Ty's eyes and then scanned her DNA or whatever, and that's how she shapeshifted into her. Because I think that Ty actually was crushed by a droid, and she died. So that's when people came, running, and they're like, Ty's dead. And then
They never said she's dead. They said that she was
got
crushed by an exterminator. And then when we have that flashback and we see her, we don't see her die.
Well,
so I don't know. I don't know that she died, but
so what happened then? Did the fucking robot lady go into Ty's body and just like wait for the perfect moment to explode out of her or something?
I don't know if everybody just has like cyborg robot parts, and that she's able to kind of download a virus into her to make her have the contagion that makes her feel like she needs to exterminate the humans.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of sounds like she gave Ty the contagion.
But I was assuming that all of the villagers were like organic humans, didn't have any cyborg parts, so they can't get
I don't know.
a contagion. So I thought what happened was the lady looked into her eyes, got all of the data that she needed to like turn into her, shapeshift into her, and then she was killed by either the lady
so
robot.
You think Ty was left there? The actual Ty was left there?
Yeah, I think the actual Ty died, and the lady like shapeshifted and Trojan horsed her way into the village and then exploded out of this Ty skin.
See, I'm not sure that that's true. Well, it totally could be if this script is just really bad, because I think that they could have played that up in some way, especially if her little sister came up to her, who's so important to her, and she didn't recognize the little sister.
Does not
or something.
compute. Human sister.
Like, again, with the total lack of foreshadowing that would like build any suspense or interest in these moments potentially, and then would pay off later.
Yeah.
Things are just happening.
Yeah. Nobody was like, hey, Ty's acting a little weird.
Yeah, although I mean everybody's like, is Ty okay? But that's because everyone just seemed overly concerned about Ty all the time.
Yeah.
Also, okay, when we're back in the automation factory, this was like my first big question. Initially, they realize that things are getting set off and that the safeguard droids are coming. And infuriatingly, nobody's like just running for the exits.
Yeah.
But she like falls and can't get up next to the food, but there's nothing clear about like she just seems to not want to get up. Like there's no clear reason why they're like, leave the package, leave the food. And I'm like, could she not stand up with it? Like, why is she on the ground? Like she was on the ground to like pick up the food and put it into her bag. And then they're like, Ty won't get up.
It's because it's Ty, dude. She's a weak piece of shit.
Did anything already happen to her?
I don't know. She's weak and sucks. And like her sister's even weaker and sucks even more, apparently. Like, just let that bloodline die.
Because, I mean, was that their way of trying to say something was going to happen to her? I didn't know if they were supposed to just create a little bit more suspense. Honestly, just everybody not doing anything for a little while was suspenseful enough.
Do you think this would have been better served as a series so they could explain some of this stuff?
Sure.
Let it breathe a little?
Yeah. I think it would have been a lot better as a series. Would have been better as a video game. I think that if it was a series, they could have done a lot more characterization to make you care. But like literally people are dying these horrible deaths.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt nothing.
Yeah, I didn't feel a thing.
There wasn't a single person who could die where I'd be like, no.
Well, I think that's one of the problems that like I brought up earlier is because I don't know who the main character is. Because at the beginning it seems like it's going to be Zuru, who is the main girl.
I think it kind of is supposed to be.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be, but then it kind of shifts to Kitty. And
I don't think Kitty can be the main character because.
Well, it's like he's on a quest to find the net terminal gene, and like you follow him for a while, and then
but I think
feel
part
like
of the reason why he's not the main character is because he never finds it. He never has any kind of a resolution. He's like the wanderer who comes in, makes his cameo, and then leaves again to keep going on his journey.
Well, I also felt that it shifted to then Pops, who he has like some fucking right hand man. I don't know if it's his son or something, but he's just always saying Pops. And he's always like defending Pops for no reason and speaking for Pops for no reason. It's like, let the guy talk for himself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I didn't care about anybody.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so either Ty becomes some kind of a cyborgy creature, or the cyborgy creature that's been pretending to be her this whole time reveals herself. And she drags a gun in the least suspicious way possible across this entire village. Like, is Ty okay?
Ty, are you okay?
She's just like sleepwalking and like dragging a gun basically. And then just stands on the edge of this thing and shoots what did they call it?
That was the first synthetic terminal that created the barrier to keep them safe.
And the barrier was
safeguard.
still functional, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So she shoots the barrier, which then allows the watchtower to see the village and see the humans and send and send all the droids. So chaos ensues, and Ty / whatever that robot girl is just slaughters villagers.
Yeah, that's why I said it seems like there's only like 15 of them left by the end, because that robot lady fucks people up.
And
that robot woman's name is Sanakan.
Oh yeah, she does say her name for a second.
Or as us in America, what we call it, Sanakan.
Let's not.
Yeah, so I'm talking to Sanakan, and she's.
So while Sanakan is really fucking this place up, Shibo goes to connect to the new synthetic terminal, and she's telling, or she had told Kitty that she'd be able to connect to the sort of larger web, which would synthetically do whatever the net terminal gene was going to do.
Yeah, I didn't understand what was going on. It looked like Shiba was like just going for a swim through this like digital landscape, and
Was like, protect me because I can't move while I'm connected. But then, of course, he has to go take care of Sonicon.
yeah, I didn't understand. By the time she got to the big net Genesis type thing, and she's like, I want to create a net terminal.
I think she's
gene.
speaking to the authority.
Yeah. And he's like, well, you can't do that unless you have the net terminal gene. And she's like, well, can I make a synthetic one? They're like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, that was confusing for me. And I was like, I guess that's kind of interesting to do because you're making it so that it's like, well, it's not that easy. You can't just like waltz in and do the thing. For a more satisfying ending, there's usually more roadblocks sort of at the end of the second act, where there's like kind of a false ending. There might be two false endings where, you have that uneasy feeling of being like, oh, that was too easy. And then, the actual ending then is so much more satisfying that they've managed to get past all of these hurdles. I kind of feel like maybe that's what it was trying to do, but it was just kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
Rather than kind of a
I think
build up.
The big letdown of this movie is, in the end, it seems like they haven't advanced at all, and they don't, like, nothing changed really from the beginning, because in the beginning they're in this place, the village is in a place that's away from the watchtower, so they can't be watched, but they're starving and blah blah blah. And then they go through all of these trials and tribulations, and in the end the authority tells them about a place where they can live away from the watchtower and be safe.
Yeah,
And, like, they haven't gained anything.
What happens, like, the authority's like, we're going to destroy you in this amount of time. However, we do have this map, and we have no order to not give you the map.
Yeah.
So she looks, there must be a lot of levels, because Kitty earlier says that he comes from 6,000 levels below.
Yeah.
And
he found something 200 levels below.
Yeah. And she tells the villager, well, she comes back as just a hand, or like an arm with spider legs, and she's like, my brain is in my arm. And you're like, okay,
all right, well, it might as well be.
Why not? And and then she tells the villagers that there's a secret level between this level and the one below it where it's offline. There's no safeguard or watchtowers or anything. So the difference between where they started and where they ended up is that they don't have to go into a hunting ground that is unsafe and unprotected, because the entire level has no predators, basically.
Okay. Well, how long can that last? They're eating sludge. Seems like it's not a very renewable resource.
Yeah, unless they had access to that automated factory and were able to create that infinite cornbread.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's stupid. Like, I don't know. It just, yeah. There's so much of it can't be explained, and it's a manga, and there's like 10 books or whatever. Maybe more of it's explained in the manga, but like,
surely in 10 books you could explain a little more.
Yeah, this is a 1 hour and 46 minute movie, and there's a lot of questions that have yet to be answered. Like, Kitty, it just goes off, and he's like, I'm still gonna keep looking for the net terminal gene. Here's this neck thing that I wear that keeps me safe from the watchtower. But if they're going to a place where there's no watchtower at all, like,
why would she need
She
that?
doesn't need it. He needs it because he's still looking for the net terminal gene. He's fucking dead for sure.
Yeah. And then he has this final battle against Sonicon, and at some point she seems to just kind of pop his arm off.
Yeah. This is where
there's no slice or anything. It's just pops off.
this is where I felt that animation was the worst. It's like,
Yeah,
because there's
I agree.
rocks, flaming rocks falling, and they don't like bounce or anything. They just kind of like, there's not any wavering in how they fall. It's just they fall flat and then they land flat, and the fire looks like some bullshit from a 1992 video game.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens with Kitty. He falls onto the ground. There's no bounce when he hits the ground. It's just he, boom, lays on the ground. It looked so bad. And that final battle was very disappointing. And the animation sucked.
Well, you don't really understand what Kitty is fighting for, and you're not really rooting for him because there's no way to, he's a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
Who has this focus on one thing, and you don't even really get the impression that he knows why he's focused on it.
Yeah.
And he has no ability certainly to explain or communicate his focus on it. I
think the reason why he wants that is because if you have that allows people to get control of the computers again. But it seems like no one has that.
So presumably would he be now, ruler of the world because of that?
So. I guess.
Or would he want to also share that with other humans? Like, you don't understand his motivations. He's not saying like, I want to save everyone. I want to be able to get control back or do something, or at least get this to stop.
I don't know. Maybe we weren't paying attention. Maybe like all.
Oh, you think
this...
we missed one of those 47 words that really pulled it together?
Maybe we missed some kind of explanation. Because I got real bored during this, and I think that you fell asleep at a certain point.
I did kind of enjoy that the Lego food had IKEA instructions on it.
Yeah. Well, dude, when Kitty first hands the little kid the brick with the instructions, and it says like, it's just drawn pictures where it's like, take the brick and then put it in water and then it becomes food. This little kid throws it in like a huge vat of water, and then all of this bread looking stuff comes up from it. My first thought was like, wait, but now where's all of our water? We don't have any water now.
Yeah, that would be rough. Yeah, where does water come from?
I don't know.
In this world.
I don't know. I don't know. There's no springs. There's no ocean.
So I think conceptually there are some parts of this that are pretty interesting. And of course, we've seen a lot of things like this that are post-apocalyptic, but this does go an extra step further beyond some of the post-apocalypses that we've encountered.
Yeah.
And is less, sort of magical and weird than like the 12,000 whatever AD of Vampire Hunter D. But it misses the mark in a couple of ways. And like I've said about so many anime films, is that they frequently have some really interesting concepts, and then you just want them to have a couple more rewrites before they really go into production.
Yeah.
Which is basically how I feel about this.
I know that the guy that wrote this also wrote a Netflix anime series called Knights of Sidonia.
Okay.
And not a lot. I read one review that was like, this isn't as good as Knights of Sidonia because it doesn't have time to breathe like Knights of Sidonia.
Right.
So I think this could have really benefited from being a series, so it can explain some of the stuff that we have all these questions about.
I was also thinking it would work nicely as a novel. And I think, as a novel, it can explain who the characters are from this omniscient third person perspective of the narrator. And then you might have a better chance of empathizing or understanding what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think movie was the way to go. And it kind of seems to me like they're trying to set up something like a trilogy.
Yeah, it felt like there was about to be a sequel.
Yeah.
Because Katie's like, I'm going to keep looking for the net terminal gene. But I think he's definitely dead. And then it flashes forward to Zuru is now like an old grandma lady.
And they have a nice little village with pleasant lights and things in their not predatory landscape.
Yeah, so I think that there is a sequel to it.
Probably in the works.
No, I mean, I think there is a sequel manga.
Oh, sure. I mean, didn't you say there were 10 books?
No, I mean, in the first Blame story.
Oh, okay.
Like this, I think there was 10 books, but who knows how long they are. It could be like 12 pages, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that there is a Blame 2 manga.
I'd buy that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd buy it. I wouldn't buy it.
I would
probably,
believe that.
I would believe
wouldn't
that.
buy it.
Yeah, please don't
And
sell
I'm
it to
glad
me.
that we didn't buy Blame
Yeah,
the movie.
Me too. Me too. I think the only thing we haven't really touched on is getting titular. Why Blame?
I don't know. I have no idea. Who's to blame?
Who is to blame?
Humans.
I blame Joe for making me watch this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it is about like, are the humans to blame for this happening to themselves? Do you think that's what it's about?
I can't really explain much about this movie.
How many? 6,000 levels. How many levels do you think you'd have to go up before you're just in space? You know, like how tall are these levels? What's the?
Yeah, and it like,
unless they also go downward, I guess.
and how can how can humans survive that high up? Because
the humans?
just altitude sickness that they adapt to it, or the air has got to be really thin up there.
Yeah, what's the highest altitude where people actually live?
Yeah, it's just so much unexplained. I want to know more about like if there are other humans and what are their trials and tribulations, because maybe they don't even have all of those mecha tech war gear that the Electro Fishermen had. Like, I want to know what people on the other side of the world are up to, if there are other people.
Do they use different slang?
Yeah, do they
wear their skirts differently?
do they have a different name for the safeguard / exterminator / authority?
Do those ones, style their helmets?
Yeah. Differentiate them so that they're not so confusing.
What color is their IKEA furniture food?
Yeah. Or are they just living high on the hog? And like they have no idea.
One level up, things are just fine.
Yeah, they have no idea that like all of this strife is happening one level below them.
And there aren't actually 6,000 levels. Just Katie's been going up and down an elevator and got confused.
He just getting lost. It's just like, I swear that this must have been 3,000 times I've been up this.
I think I'm 6,000 levels from where I started.
Yeah, he's just making shit up to make himself sound interesting. He's like from the village next to their village.
His speech pattern reminds me of films from like the 80s and 90s of somebody coming from the past or somebody being just manifested into being where they don't know how the world works yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of, they play that running gag of like, I don't know how life works.
What? Can you name a movie that's like this?
Sure, like Weird Science.
Oh, okay.
Or like the first time, I guess, and this is not as early as those movies, but like the first Thor, when he's kind of going around, and you just have like somebody who just goes like, coffee goes in pot.
Yeah.
They just say this random thing, or just
George
kind
of the Jungle.
Yeah, exactly. The George of the Jungle speak too. Yeah, and I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
I guess it made him seem less human. It made him seem more robotic.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's been through some shit, He's been going 6,000 levels. He's blown up so much shit, dude. That guy's got some fucking scars, and he's not dilly-dallying.
Sure. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm the one that was all excited about this.
You were stoked.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit, Blame 1. This is going to be so sick. And then here we are. I'm cranking my amp to a 3.5 out of 11.
No way. I was going to go 3.5 too.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a confusing plot. The animation was janky and didn't look nice. That's all I can say about, like, usually I can expound more about like why, but there was I said at the beginning, this is a mediocre, nothing interesting, confusing, unanswered question hunk of poop.
I mean, I think that it has some potential and it misses the mark, and I really hate the way a lot of the animation looks, but some of the backgrounds are very pretty. If you can deal with some of the camera movements that go over them. And the lens flares needed to chill out. But there were some cool character designs and some interesting parts of the world building that I appreciated. So it's not complete trash.
I will say that the spidery droids were very scary. They did a good job of making those scary.
I usually find blank masks like that really terrifying, and I didn't think that those guys were that scary. I think there's something about it that felt very much like, yeah, where they're just like, look how scary I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, because it was like that blank face mask and spider movements.
Yeah, but it wasn't as spidery as it could be. I thought some of their movement was kind of comical. But then, we talked about it, and you found the way he moved in that really scary, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm normally such a scaredy cat when it comes to any kind of horror film, but their movement reminded me of that. If I saw that in person, that I'd
makes
flip,
sense.
But
does
like
make sense.
Watching it there, I was like, those things should scare me, and I'm okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it for Blame. Sorry, everybody.
Poor Joe.
That's the episode on Blame. 3.5s all around for Blame. Yeah.
I could probably wait another 17 million hours before I watch this again.
Why not 70 million? It's only a 6,000 year difference.
I just
rate and review the pod on Apple and all that shit, and subscribe, and go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Just look up the Anime Movie Podcast. If you want to write in, the Anime Movie Podcast at Gmail. You want to follow us on Instagram at the Anime Movie Podcast. And that's it. That's the shit. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Anime Movie Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Anime Movie Podcast, and you can reach out via email at the Anime Movie Podcast at gmail.com. Please subscribe, rate and review, and tell a friend. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.